Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Be a Better You podcast. I am your host, Allison K. Dagny, and today I have a guest with me who I have worked with personally, and I thought it would be a great idea to bring her on to share her wisdom and insight and knowledge for something that a lot of people struggle with during and after emotional abuse, which is financial stuff like financial abuse, financial um, stories that we have and all of the struggles that may come with that keep us from abundance and keep us from having the peace inside of us that we all desire when it comes to things like money. So if you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, who you support, and then we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. I am so honored to be here. My name is Victoria D'Ambrosio. I am a money mindset and manifestation coach, and I work with my clients to really uncover and identify their money blocks, the fears, doubts, insecurities, limiting beliefs as it relates to money, clear them from the subconscious so that they can start making more money, primarily in their business. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And so I'm so excited to be here today and really talk about how these experiences with our money can shape our current reality and what we can do to shift that so that you can have a better experience with money in the future.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really great conversation. I'm really excited about it. And I know you said you work with people who are like business owners and things like that. And a lot of my listeners are that. And many of my listeners are also out of financially abusive relationships where they've experienced control, where they have experienced manipulation or guilt about money. So the I know this and you know this, the wounds run deep. It can go all the way back to childhood, and usually it does. Before we get into all of that, though, what I'd love to know if you could just share a little bit about your personal story and what led you here and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so my personal story is funny enough. I actually went to school for finance. So I studied finance in undergrad, and when I graduated, I started working in banking and consulting. I thought that that's what I was going to do. I had the vision on my mind to be this investment banker, CEO, like type of person. And, several years into working in finance, I realized it just wasn't for me. And I felt very lost and I didn't know what to do with my life. And as I was diving into personal development, I stumbled across manifestation. And honestly, at that point in time, if you had told me, if I heard manifestation, I kind of thought it was a little woo-woo BS, if I'm being totally honest with you. I'm like, oh, you can create your reality just based on your thoughts. Like, that's a scam. Like, no way. And basically what ended up happening was, one day I just saw so much about it online. I was like, you know what? Why don't I just keep an open mind? I keep an open mind. What's the worst that happens? You know what I mean? I'm not banking anything on this. And so I really started to learn about manifestation. And it was that in combination with learning about EFT tapping, which maybe we'll touch on in this episode, which is a mindset tool that you can use to work through some mindset blocks you have or like fears, doubts, limiting beliefs. I started experiencing so many shifts. And like I said earlier, I was a skeptic. And so what I did is I kept what I call a coincidence tracker. And so every time I would have a coincidence, I would write it down on that piece of paper of like, oh, that's interesting. I started tapping on this frustration around money. And then the next day, I got a free iPhone. And then the next, you know what I mean? Like I just started like writing down these coincidences. And eventually, the list became so long that I could no longer write it off as coincidence anymore. And I really started to see the tangible correlation between when I would work on the fears, the doubts, the limiting beliefs, what would then happen in my reality as a direct result. I would work on something and then, afterwards I would see, oh my gosh, I just worked on money blocks, for example, and then I now, signed a new client.
Mhm.
And that's really how I got here today was wanting to share that with more people because, I think manifestation can sometimes get a bad rap because people think it's just, say something out loud and then it's supposed to magically show up in our reality. And Allison, I know you know this, and if you're a listener, I'm sure you guys know this. It goes so much deeper than that. And that's I just started talking about it online because I was like, I think this is the missing piece of like actually clearing the blocks to get the manifestation. It made such a big difference in my life. I wanted to share that missing piece with other people, and that's kind of how I ended up here.
Yeah, I love that story. It's so funny how you started out in like the finance, accounting, like all of that stuff, and now you're here. But I think it is a true testament to what you did, like you were doing a little bit of research and trying to be open-minded about it, and then realizing, wait a second, as you started to track it, wait, there might be something to this. So I would love for people to be able to open their minds that much too, to be able to see how they can change their own lives, right? Because this just isn't about like the power of manifestation, which it is very powerful. It also is connected deeply to the subconscious mind. And I know you know that because when I was working with you and I had already been a coach for a long time in the subconscious mind area, then you're starting to talk about it with me, and we're utilizing this as part of my healing and as part of releasing my limiting beliefs and fears about money. So let's talk a little bit about how you have seen this show up for people who you've worked with. You can use me as an example or anybody else who you want to use or yourself. But I think about things like when I was being emotionally abused in my relationship with my ex husband, um, there was this like feeling of, how do I want to say it? Like need versus want. Like you shouldn't want something. You should only buy things that you need. Or we don't have enough money to spend on that. Or um, we should just save all of our money instead of spend it. So like those kinds of things were being programmed into me from that relationship. I probably had some different money stories. I definitely know I do from childhood. But what are some of the, I guess, most common things that you hear from the people who you worked with that like stems from either their childhood or beyond?
Mm, I would say one of the biggest blocks I see by far is the connection between making money and it having to require struggle,
Mm,
sacrifice, hustle. And so, if anyone's even listening, you can just do a quick thought process of if I want to make money, what does that require of me? What do you believe to be true, right?
mhm,
Like when I first started, I believed if I want to work, or sorry, if I want to make a lot of money, I have to work really, really hard. There's only a certain handful of jobs that I can make a lot of money
mhm,
doing, like be a doctor, be a lawyer, go into finance, etc. And I'm going to have to struggle and sacrifice and work 15 hours and all of these things. And that's what I'll refer to as like my subconscious success formula, because, like you were saying, it all routes back to our subconscious. That's what I felt and believed had to be true in order to make a lot of money. And I see that happening all the time, usually because growing up, we have experienced that. Maybe we grew up and watched our parents or people we knew close in our lives work really, really hard, or you saw that on TV, or you experienced that yourself. And so then that can become programmed into our reality. I would say that's one of the most common
mhm.
blocks that I
Yeah,
see
for
by far.
sure. I mean, I remember seeing my parents work really hard, and I didn't even see my mom a lot growing up because she worked the shift where I was at school, or I'm sorry, she worked the shift when I was at home in the evenings, and my dad worked when I was in school. So I saw my dad a lot more than my mom. She was evenings and weekends working. So, like there were beliefs that I had developed as a child about hard work and like you won't be able to spend time with your family and you're going to have to sacrifice time with people to make money. And I know a lot of people probably share that same sentiment or thought that they have. But then it goes even deeper, like especially when it comes to like financial abuse, where you may have had specific programs from childhood that then get reinforced in abusive situations such as mine. They were different, but they still impacted me and then created a lot of fear. Like I was afraid I couldn't spend money, even after I escaped my abuser. Like I couldn't spend $250 at the grocery store because the budget was $150. So 2 years away from my ex, almost had a panic attack in the parking lot because I had this program belief that I can't spend that kind of money at the grocery store.
Yeah.
So it's a scary feeling, when you have these beliefs that you don't even maybe even know that you've got. So what is the first step, right, to starting to uncover these things? Because people may be hearing this for the first time and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize. Like, oh yeah, I've always heard money grows on trees and like blah, blah, blah. But like maybe they don't know the deep well of which their money blocks are in. Quick pause here. If you are listening to this and you're nodding along, like, yep, this is me, and you're ready to actually shift this and not just keep managing and coping, you can apply for a free root cause call using the link in the show notes. On that call, we're going to look at where you're at right now, where you want to be emotionally, and start uncovering what is actually in the way. And then I'm going to give you my recommendations and point you in the right direction if any of my programs might feel like a fit. And if it's aligned, we'll move forward. If not, you still leave with some clarity. All right, now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I'll touch on the first steps, but first, what you were talking about with, the financial abuse, it's so important to truly understand how deep this runs, just to like really acknowledge and honor how deep this is and how difficult, for lack of a better term, this work can be. Not in a, hustle grind way, but like it runs really deep. There's a lot of emotions involved. And if you think about it at its core, one of the key emotions and energies behind money that keeps that like lock on us, right, is safety.
Mm.
So if you think about it on a more, tactical level, right? Like, yeah, there was a financial abuse. So there was probably this feeling of like, if I spend more money than I should or money where I'm not supposed to, that makes me feel unsafe, whether that is physical unsafety of like physical abuse as a reaction to that, or just like yelling, verbal abuse, that creates a lack of safety.
Mhm.
And even if we, zoom out from the abuse situation, it just represents safety in general, right? Because if you think about it, we're all wired to survive and thrive. And, how we're thinking about money also correlates to kind of, are we in survival territory or thriving territory?
Yeah, for sure.
So money really does represent this deep sense of safety, especially then when you layer in this angle of abuse. And if you're sitting here listening to all this and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is so deep, I don't know where to start, all of this stuff. And maybe you're also someone who's listening and you know that you want to get to like the root of all of this stuff because it probably happened in childhood and now you want to go digging, but you don't know where to start. You don't need to know exactly the root of your block to start healing your blocks. You can start right now today with working through your triggers, because your triggers are the window into your subconscious mind. Because anything that's bothering you is only triggering you because there's some sort of wounding or hurt around that thing. And maybe you're not consciously aware of it, right? The same way you might get cut off in traffic and then get really, really frustrated. That could be coming from something deeper, like being really unhappy in your job, just for example. And so if you want to get started today, my recommendation is to use EFT tapping. It's my favorite modality to like just get started and really clear a lot of stuff, to tap on what is bothering you, even if it doesn't on the surface relate to money. If your money stuff is bothering you right now and you're really frustrated because you're like, I wish I had more money, you can tap on those triggers and those frustrations. But if you don't have that right now, trust that if you tap on any trigger, whether someone cuts you off in traffic, whether it's a trigger around relationships, whether it's a trigger around, getting on the scale, whatever it is, you can use EFT tapping to tap on that. And what happens is tapping is like a layer of an onion layer, right? You'll peel back this top layer, which is available to you at your conscious level of awareness, which is what's triggering you. As you tap, the deeper blocks will come to the surface and reveal themselves to you. So you don't need to be, a full expert in the subconscious mind and be able to pinpoint the root. You really can see results just starting with where you're at, and you go, what triggered me today? What's bothering me today? Or better yet, in the moment, you're just getting it all out,
Mhm.
and you can use EFT tapping to clear and start working through that.
Okay, so let's quickly talk about EFT because I use it for myself. I've used it with you in my coaching with you. I use it with some of my clients who need that relief. But it's called emotional freedom technique for those people who don't know what it is. Can you just kind of give a brief overview of it?
Yeah, of course. So, like Allison said, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. You will also hear people refer to it as tapping because what it is you are tapping on certain points of your body. They are your body's meridian points because EFT is based on ancient Chinese medicine. And you are tapping on different points of your body while you are saying things either out loud or honestly, when I tap, I don't say them out loud. I just say it in my mind, and you are tapping on these different parts of your body. And there's actually a lot of science to support EFT, which is amazing, especially with things like anxiety, PTSD, grief, and depression that helps you heal it. To keep it short and sweet, it does create a nervous system response in your body. So even when you're talking about these triggers, the tapping on those points is sending calming signals to your body, telling your body that you're safe, which is helping you heal through these wounds, these emotions, these limiting beliefs that you have. And over time, you will find that the strength of those limiting beliefs, fears, doubts, all of that will decrease over time until it no longer triggers you.
Yeah, the first time I had done tapping, it was really a relief for me, and it felt really good, and I was able to get shifts very quickly. So, I think that whole mind body connection, like your nervous system and like your body, your thoughts, like all of that stuff, like when you are experiencing something that you need to process and move through your body, it's a really, really good place to start. And I use it for all kinds of stuff. I use it for my emotions and I use it for anything that I feel like needs to be cleared out. So thank you for that explanation. So I think to kind of piggyback on what you were saying before with that fear, like that's a primal fear, right? Survival is based in a few things, I think, for humans, community and like resources. Because if you were years ago alone and didn't have, you know, a, a tribe to help support you, your chances of survival would go down dramatically, right? But now, because we have a lot more resources and we have a lot more capability to survive, the thing that gives us that security is money. Because without money, we don't have a house, we can't pay our bills, we can't eat food, right? Like, so that's sort of like a lot of people have this fear that I don't have enough money coming in, or money's always leaving, or am only able to make ends meet. There's not an excess or an abundance or whatever that might be. So I think, especially people who've been in a situation of financial abuse, a lot of times that specifically leaves you feeling powerless because someone else is in control of the money. So what would you think would be a way that people can start feeling like they can reclaim some sense of control or some sense of safety around that after they've gotten out of an emotionally, financially abusive situation? Because for me, I know I didn't feel safe at all. Like I felt and I had money. Like it wasn't like I didn't have money to support myself, but I still had the fear.
I'm so glad you said that last part because more money doesn't solve these types of money problems. And especially, like you said, with the financial abuse.
Hmm.
I work with people all the time who have this fear of the money's going to run out or I can't spend it. And they can have on paper a 6+ figure business, but they're still terrified. and feel like money is what's controlling them and feeling like the victim to money. So, Allison, you know this from working with me. I truly believe the way we get to the other side of of how we're feeling, of what we actually want to feel. So if in this scenario you feel really powerless with money and you feel like money controls you, I am not the person who's going to sit here and tell you to say an affirmation of I'm in control of my life, because that has never worked for me. I'm not saying it doesn't work for other people. I'm saying that method has never worked for me. And so if you're in a similar spot where affirmations haven't worked for you, perhaps this is a different avenue you can try. I think the only way on the other side, the only way out is through. So if you feel like, oh my God, I do not have enough money, I feel this sense of control or lack of control. How am I going to pay my bills? I am so freaked out right now. I am so scared. I hate this. I hate this feeling. I hate feeling out of control. I hate that he did this to me. I hate him. How do you actually feel? And use that, get that out. For me, you tap on that,
Mhm.
on how you actually feel. And I would encourage you to do it consistently. If you can tap on that for, like, even if you make a challenge for yourself for a week, better to do 30 days. When you tap through the feeling and honor the negative feelings of the lack of control, the lack of safety, on the other side, you will naturally start to feel more in control and more safe as a byproduct. Because when that negative feeling isn't there, then it's gone, right? And so what happens in its absence? We feel better because that abundance is our natural state of being. You're not, you know what I mean? When you're born, you're not born automatically with all these program beliefs around money and safety and security. That is learned behavior that you learn directly from someone telling you something or indirectly through your experiences. So when we clear that's what we're left with. So that's what I would honestly encourage you guys to do, is like allow yourself to feel those things, even if you're only tapping for 5 minutes a day, like 3 to 5 times a week. Like, I genuinely will tell you, you will see a difference.
Yeah. I I think that's so important to recognize, and I talk about this a lot with my clients and even on this podcast, that it's important to feel your emotions and like not stuff them because what happens in our bodies when we don't allow the emotions to pass through is they get stuck, and then we feel stuck, and then either they come out later in an explosion or we end up dissociating from those emotions and we don't feel anything. But what you're saying about like just really honoring how you feel in that moment is so important, and to take the judgment out of it, right? Because this is it's not like you're on stage and you've got an audience of people who are listening to what you are feeling and listening to your beliefs as you're tapping through. It's literally something that you're doing privately, which is a huge benefit because if you don't judge you, nobody else is judging you anyway, you know? So it's a matter of really allowing those feelings to come through, really um, feeling into any sort of injustices or anger or frustration or fears. You know, those are so big. And when you do that, like you said, on the other side is where you're going to get the relief, because you can't skip that. Like you can't go around. Like we want to be able to like, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to experience that. That's too scary, right? You can go as deep as you want, right? You don't have to like, go to places you're not comfortable with. But I have found that when we can push ourselves a little bit through the discomfort, that's when the relief feels the best. So, what do you think um, for women who really feel a lot of anxiety about money? Like you were saying before, like, I don't have enough, or it's not, it's always disappearing. What do you think that the biggest I don't know if the word lie is the question I want to ask, or the biggest myth about what they should be doing when they're feeling those kinds of emotions, like things that maybe you've heard that other people are saying you should do this or you should do that. Like if you're scared, I feel like I have an idea about this, but I kind of want to know what you think about it.
Yeah. If someone came to me and they were saying they were really scared about money. Actually, this scenario kind of just happened to me, so I'll walk you through what I walked someone else through is I think the first thing to think about is to figure out where this feeling of anxiety and stress is actually coming from. Is it a actual I don't have money in the bank to meet my needs feeling of anxiety and stress because you actually do not have that money, which is a very valid, real concern? Or is it like you still feel that way, but oh, I actually examined my bank account and I have more than enough, but I still feel really anxious and stressed and all of those things. So that's not to invalidate the other side and those feelings. All feelings are valid. But what's important is to first identify, is it actually a money in the bank problem? Because if it's not, and you still feel that way, then okay, we know, all right, the solution to this problem is if it's not the fact that there's actually not money there, but you're still stressed about money not being there, that's more of the emotional mindset side of things that then you would want to address. Versus if you're like, oh, yeah, I'm stressed about this. And obviously it's causing me stress because I only have $6 in my bank account and I need more to pay my bills. So I think the first step is to really understand what is the root cause of the problem. Because without that, right, like let's say it is a true money in the bank problem, it is really hard to mindset your way around the nervous system dysregulation that comes with not being able to pay your bills. And so in scenarios like that, I honestly generally advise people to get to a place where they can feel safer with money. You know what I mean? And you can still do the mindset work, but it's a lot easier to do when you're like, all right, maybe I, was, trying to start my business, but I'm going to pick up a part-time job to like help me regulate my nervous system. And if it is I have the money here, I have the money here, but I still feel unsafe, then it's like, okay, so it's this lack of safety. Where is this lack of safety coming from? Let's explore that. And then we can address the root there.
Right. Okay. So would this be kind of like if someone was like they had some money, but it really wasn't like their level of safety, like their minimum. Let's say they like to have $50,000 in the bank to feel safe, but now they're down to like 25. So like they still have $25,000, but they don't feel really safe with that number. But maybe the fear is that they have all these other things that they need to do in their business to create income, but they're scared to like, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I am incapable, or I can't figure it out by myself, or I need somebody to help me. Like, could that be something similar too, where you're like, I know that I have money to pay my bills. I know I'm going to have enough money for the next however many months to survive, but I'm still getting trapped in this fear because I may have other beliefs that are coming up that are kind of like side. You know what I mean? Like kind of like these additional, well, you talked about the layers of an onion. Like maybe it's something else. Like you have to kind of like keep pulling back, keep pulling back, keep pulling back.
Yeah, because even in that example, and it's going to be different for every single person, but when you're like, oh, I need all these things to grow my business, it's a balance, right? Because sometimes you do want to make business investments, but sometimes we feel like we need to make business investments because we don't trust ourselves. So that in that scenario, it could be a situation where it's like, oh, this lack of safety is like, oh my God, I only have $25,000 and I need to spend 20 of that or whatever it is to invest in coaching because otherwise my business isn't going to grow and then I'm never going to be successful. And you feel like you're choosing between financial safety and growing your business.
Mm.
When in reality, one possibility is that maybe you don't actually need to spend any money or you don't need to spend some money, but you have a lack of trust within yourself, because of other subconscious blocks and
Mhm.
other things
Yeah.
that happened in childhood where maybe you feel like maybe you were always told that your opinion wasn't valid or that you were wrong. And so that way, even though deep down maybe you have an intuition of like, for example, the content that you want to create online, but you're like, no, I'm not a messaging expert. I need to go hire someone to tell me what the messaging is because otherwise I'm never going to get it right and I'm never going to grow my business. When in reality, the answers are actually within you. It's just that you don't have that trust within yourself because of whatever happened
Right.
to make you feel that way.
Yeah.
So that could be like a
Yeah,
scenario
yeah.
there. Yeah.
It just goes to show that there's so many layers to this, and you got to start somewhere, right? Like you said before, like maybe start with the triggers or things in the moment that are happening now. So I want to talk about the law of attraction, and how that relates to, manifestation and all of that stuff. Maybe some people know about the law of attraction, maybe some people don't, but I don't know. I just kind of have this like nudge that we should talk about it.
Yeah. Is there anything specific
I don't
about
know.
that?
Like, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the law of attraction because I have been in the manifestation world. And so for those of you who aren't familiar, the law of attraction at a high level states that like energies attract like energies.
Mhm.
So if you're thinking positive, then you bring positive things into your reality. If you're thinking negative, then you're thinking negative things into reality. My issues with the law of attraction is I think I think when it started, it was a way to try to, at a high level, explain certain concepts, but there's so much, in my opinion, depth and nuance to it that I think sometimes it gets a bad rap. And then it also can create really toxic negative
Mhm.
repercussions because then you'll have people who I've gotten this in my comments so many times. They're like, "Well, I have anxiety or I have depression, so then I can't manifest, and I'm manifesting all these negative things into my reality, and it's because I have anxiety or depression, and I create like it can create this."
Mhm.
Toxic environment that I don't personally subscribe to.
Mhm.
So I don't know if how you
Yeah.
feel about
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
because it can sometimes lead to like victim blaming, I think
Yeah.
sometimes, where people think, well, if I am having this like negative attitude because of my trauma or whatever, then it's my fault that I don't have money, or it's my fault that I'm not attracting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, like I certainly do not want anyone to ever feel like, oh, well, then I must have manifested my abuse. Like, no,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? And I get
Exactly.
that. I'm
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
against that. And so maybe I'll just share my how I define manifestation. This is what serves me. If it serves you, great. If not, you can leave it. The way I think about manifestation is like to kind of almost put wind in your sails to go in the direction that you want to go. Or if when you go to an airport and you can walk, or you can walk on the
Mhm.
airport
Yeah.
walkway and then you get faster,
Yeah.
right? Like you're still controlling it, you're still going in the right direction, but when you're, I'll put in air quotes, manifesting, it can help you go there faster.
Hmm.
Manifestation, if we take a step back, in my opinion, is just the creation of something. So I made my coffee this morning. I manifested my coffee, right? If I work really hard on my business and then I hit a certain income goal, I've manifested that, even if I'm not someone who's spiritual, right? It's simply just bringing things into reality. It's
Hmm.
not always this like, oh my gosh, $10,000 just fell out of the sky onto my lap because I journaled about it and spoke it into existence. Like that's one example of something how it could manifest, but that's not encompassing of the whole thing. And so when I talk about manifestation, I'm really more talking about mindset work and how we can change how we view things that will help us achieve our goals more easily.
Hmm.
So let me give an example because really this comes down to the chain of reactions of how when we think differently, we feel differently. And when we think and feel differently, we show up and take action differently. And when we take action differently, we will get different results. So, for example, not so much in like the abuse side of things, but let's even, like you said, you have business owners who listen to this podcast, right? Let's say you're creating content, but deep down you're really, really afraid of judgment. And because you have stuff you really want to say, but you feel like, you're afraid if you actually say it of getting canceled or, being judged or offending someone. And so you water down your message because you don't want to offend anyone, or you try to fit it into the perfect messaging box with someone's hook framework so that you can say the right thing to the right people to get them to buy, right? Because deep down you're afraid of judgment. So you don't want to say anything wrong. When you can clear that, right? Like then you're putting like almost like half yourself out there online, like this filtered down version of you. But imagine what would happen, the energy that you would hold if you were so convicted in your energy around what you do, who you serve, what you believe in. And you're also a nice person, by the way. So like you're not going out there saying offensive things, and you show up in that energy. And you show up saying what you really want to say, what's going to really help people because it's helped you and you want to help other people. Because now you've worked through your fear of judgment, so that's not crippling you as much anymore. The energy that you then hold when you create a piece of content from that version of yourself who's now not afraid of judgment, that fear isn't in the back of your mind, that piece of content is different. And because that piece of content is different, even if you're talking about the same thing, but you're coming at it with a different energy, you're using different words, that's going to attract your people because they're going to be like, oh my God, she's saying something that actually resonates with me. And it doesn't sound like everyone else's watered down version because everyone
Mhm.
else is afraid of being judged. And because then now you've resonated with that person because you're actually connecting with them. Now maybe you've gained a follower or now maybe you've gained a sale. So, kind of going back to this law of attraction thing of like attracts like, for me, it's not just, okay, we think something we created and if we have abuse, that's our fault. It's how can we use our thoughts to heal and think better, believe better things that are going to empower and enable us to get what we want? So if we even use like a more abuse examples that
Mhm.
will hopefully resonate with you guys, like one thing that comes to mind is if you've suffered from a financial abuse, there might be an association of more money equals abuse,
Yeah.
right? So I don't want to make more money because I don't want to maybe enter into an abusive situation or I don't want to abuse others. And if you have this link between more money and abuse and bad behavior, what happens is you'll unconsciously pull yourself back. So if you are a business owner, for example, you may not like raise your prices or you may not do these other things that would help you earn more money. But if you can then do the healing work so that, yeah, money is a neutral resource and the person who abused me with it was awful, but it's not that money is awful, is that that person was awful and they chose to do awful things with the money. You can create that neutrality with money and allow yourself to earn more because now you feel safe. So you show up differently because you feel good about bringing more money into your reality.
Okay, so with all that being said, and thank you so much for sharing that, what is one thing that you think that listeners could take away from this conversation, knowing the things we talked about, related to like the triggers and financial abuse and like our perspectives on law of attraction, like all the different things, right? Because this is a big, convoluted thing that we're dealing with, but a lot of people want to get to the bottom of it and don't want to feel afraid, don't want to feel that scarcity and lack and like all of that stuff. What's one thing that you think that they could take away from this?
The one thing I would want you to take away from this would be you have the power to heal from your past and use that to change your future one step at a time. And I want you to really know this, which is that you do not have to clear a block, a fear, an anxiety in its entirety to start seeing results. I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, I have all of this financial trauma and it's going to take me forever to heal and then feel good about money. No, every time you tap or do any sort of healing work, you are making progress on your goals. You can tap and still be, you know, healing your financial trauma from your past and still start to see your reality with money starting to shape and take form. Just like healing is, comes in layers, every time you're clearing a layer, you are seeing the results. Think about it like going to the gym, right? Like you are going to get the results every single time you go. You don't have to be in perfect shape. So I just don't want you to feel like it is this heavy thing that's going to take forever and that you have to have all this knowledge. It doesn't have to be that way. Truly, it can be as simple as just thinking about what's bothering me today. The same way you would vent to a friend, just vent and tap or clear however you want. I just am obsessed with tapping, but that's not to say that's the only way to clear things. And you will start to see the results. Keep
Right.
an open mind, keep your own coincidence tracker, and just know that like that reality is available to you and it doesn't have to take years and all this like big trauma releases. Like it gets to be that easy as well.
Right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Could you, I always ask all my guests, could you tell us one thing that maybe people close to you know about you, but not a lot of other people know about you? Some like interesting or weird fact about Victoria.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Like the first thing that came to mind is that I have a peanut allergy, but that's so weird and lame.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, because I like
Probably a
never
lot of
talk
people
about it, but
do.
that's not very exciting.
That it doesn't have to be exciting. It's just
Yeah, so
something
that's
not a lot of people
something.
know.
Yeah,
Sometimes
so
people
unfortunately I've never had
relate.
Chick-fil-A because
Yeah.
they use peanut oil. So,
Aw. Probably a
uh,
lot of places you can't have that use peanut oil too, I would assume.
yeah, I have no idea why that's the thing of all things that came to mind, but
Well,
here
you may
we
have
are.
something in common with a lot of people out there
Yeah.
listening, I'm sure. So,
Yes.
okay,
There might
well,
be a fellow peanut allergy
that's
person
right.
out there.
Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing all your insight and wisdom. Hopefully, if people would like to work with you or learn more about you, they will reach out. Where's the best place to get in contact with you?
You can come say hi to me on Instagram or on TikTok. My handle is at Victoria D'Ambrosio. And I would, even if like, just if you took anything away from this episode, if you have any questions about this episode, like I'm sure Allison, you would love to hear. I know I would love to hear. If you have any questions about tapping or where to get started, like let me know. I I want to be able to help. So yeah, reach out to
Excellent.
me, say hi. I don't bite.
Okay. And I'm going to put all of your information in the show notes. So please check that out and go say hi and connect with Victoria. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Thanks.